Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this video in which I'm going to show you how massive e-commerce brands such as Liquid Death, Sunday Red by Tiger's Wood, and Skullcandy operate their e-commerce marketing. I myself have been very capable and enlightened in terms of working with these massive companies through different agencies, and now I run my own advertising agencies. Essentially, the goal is to take these massive strategies, or I'll sometimes call insiders strategies, and share them with smaller and medium-sized e-commerce brands, which you can literally take the same marketing strategy, how they look at their metrics, right? How they operationalize or merchandise their ad account, the different formulas and the different metrics that they optimize to ultimately get to their revenue and their contribution margin and their profit targets, right? And so I'm going to show you a lot of that in this specific video today. Number one that we're going to start with is literally looking at the overall metrics that you want to be focusing on. The problem is that a lot of smaller brands, they will typically just kind of focus specifically, I'm just going to run some campaigns and then I'm going to look at my ROAS. If my ROAS is good, then the business is winning and the business is profitable, right? That is literally what is going to take your business down, right? As I've seen it so many times, because founders will ultimately just focus on ROAS, and just kind of looking at that metric as the North Star, right? It's been proven over and over again that ROAS should just be a metric to look at in the platform to indicate how good your marketing campaigns are, right? Where you really want to focus, the holy grail metric to focus on from a business level is your contribution margin right here, right? So before you even get into an ad account and start building that campaign, you want to have an understanding of what your contribution margin target is before you start building your strategy, right? That's what these massive brands do. They're like, okay, what is our contribution margin target? Meaning, what is the profit that we need in order to be able to operationalize these platforms, in order for us as a company to be profitable, right? So that's the first question that they ask themselves, right? So contribution margin. So contribution margin is calculated by the net sales, right? So net sales minus your variable costs. Your variable cost is your shipping, your pick pack, any like merchandising fee, or your like credit card processing fee, right? So that's what your variable cost is, and as well as your ad spend, essentially how much you're spending on marketing. So all of that essentially equates to your contribution margin. Probably like the most important thing that you might probably want to get from this video, contribution margin. And so the next thing is then like your AMER, so it's your acquisition marketing efficiency ratio, right? So it essentially tells you how efficient you are at acquiring new customers, right? Any investors, any smart business individual always look at the acquisition marketing ratio, or sometimes they call it like CAC, but there's still two separate metrics, right? AMER, acquisition marketing efficiency ratio. So it looks like the entirety of your marketing, right, from all different platforms, and then so you look at the revenue generated from that, and then you divide it by the spend to get to your AMER, right? Very important metric. So the goal is to always see how efficient are we at acquiring new customers? That's essentially what this is telling us. And then AMER, which is essentially revenue divided by spend, it tells you how efficient your overall marketing, right? Not just from one platform, not just from Facebook, but also from Meta to Google to TikTok. So you look at all of like the revenue from those platforms divided by how much you're spending on marketing to essentially come up with this specific metric, which is AMER. And then ROAS, finally, which is the metric that everybody just kind of talks about till this day, everybody's look at, right? So it is an important metrics, but in terms of like hierarchy, it's at the bottom, right? Because this is only a platform metric, right? It doesn't tell you how good your business is or how profitable you are. It literally just tells you how good your campaigns are performing in any specific platform, right? So it is still an important metric, but it's not the holy grail. And the calculation for that is just revenue divided by spend. That gives you the ROAS. And then the next thing obviously is CAC, customer acquisition cost, which is spend divided by the conversions, right? So that's customer acquisition cost. So you want to have an understanding of all these metrics before then you start building and merchandising your ad account, which we'll get to in just a moment. How these massive brands, again, orchestrate or build out their campaign strategy to ensure that they're getting their contribution margin target, or they're getting the AMER target that they ultimately set out in the beginning. So now that, okay, you're a newer e-commerce brand, right? So you have an understanding of what your contribution margin target is. So contribution margin is essentially profit. So again, so like after your net sale minus your variable spend, minus your ad spend, what are you making? Like that's your profit, right? And then that profit then flows over into essentially like your operational costs. So whatever operational expenses that you have, this flows over to cover that. So this is a very important metric, because if this is in a negative, then your business is struggling, right? So then we went to AMER. So AMER is a very important metric because that gives us an indicator of what our target customer acquisition needs to be across all platforms that we're advertising upon, right? So again, AMER is important because it sets the target of what you need to achieve on the platforms, on Meta, on Google, to ultimately get to the contribution margin target that you want. So by understanding your AMER, you can go, okay, cool. So my target or my break-even AMER is a 1.5 or a 2x, right? So if you know that your break-even AMER is a 2x, then you can take that and then go into Meta or go into Facebook and set target specific ROAS or target CAC to reach that AMER target, because that's your break even. And obviously anything above, if it's a 2x, that's the example that I'm giving over here. If it's a 2x AMER, your break even AMER is a 2x. So you need on every platform to get a 2x ROAS to ultimately get to your AMER target, right? So now we're gonna shift into like overall like strategy, right? In terms of like, how do you merchandise that, right? So if you have a good understanding again of what that CAC target is, right? And I know I may have said like a 2x, but AMER is supposed to be a number. Whether that's, it's supposed to be like a 1.3 or something like that, right? So then you then take that, or if again, I said 2x, you then take that and then go into the platform and set a target CAC on the platform that you're merchandising. So in this specific example, we're gonna look at Meta, right? Meta is because obviously it's like the holy grail in terms of like new customer. Like if you're an e-commerce brand, you want to go on Meta and start building that campaign to generate new customer with the target CAC that you've already set into place, right? And so the strategy behind merchandising an ad account. When I say merchandising an ad account, it simply means the order in which you're building out your campaigns, right? According to specific product categories, right? And I always get the example of, because we work a lot with a lot of apparel companies. So apparel companies typically have multiple categories, right? Each have different margin profile. Each category have different margin profile, right? So the pants collection, the shorts collection, the swimwear collection, the t-shirts, the hats, the shoes are each gonna have different margin profile, right? And so like that's the number one thing to understand. So with each margin profile, meaning there's gonna be a different profit margin that's associated with that, meaning there's going to be a different CAC or a different target that you need to set in order for those different categories to be profitable, because you can't just take all of that, which a lot of people do. They take all of those categories, lump them into one specific campaign and let Facebook take care of that. And oftentimes it's that a lot of the products that you're selling them at a loss, meaning you're losing revenue for these products that you're selling. That's what a lot of people do. The smart way and how these big brands do it, they have an understanding of each margin profile of the different categories. So again, for example, for t-shirts, they know what the margin profile of that is, right? Meaning they know exactly what they need in order to break even and to make a profit, right? And so that's how they merchandise an ad account. And so if you look at an ad account of like a Skullcandy or something like that, there's dozens of campaign, because these brands carry multiple categories. Right? Multiple categories. For example, for a Sunday Red, for example, Tiger Woods brand, they have multiple products that they sell, right? They have multiple products that they sell, from the sportswear, right, to the golf club, and even like just the bag in which you carry the golf sticks in it. They sell those as well. And so again, each of those have different product margin details in which how they structure that within the ad account is different. So coming back to over here, right, as you see this over like skeleton of how we build an ad account, right? This same strategy is carried across multiple campaigns. So over here is at the top. So this is looking at specific at a Meta example, which is Facebook and Instagram. Over here at the top, so this is the campaign, like this is an ASC campaign, Advantage Shopping campaign, right? So we would typically take, for example, if it's like a hat, right? We know what the product margin, the product margin of the hat is, right? And so we come to an understanding that we need a target ROAS of a 1.5x to break even on that, right? And so as we're building this out, we'll set a target ROAS, which is a bidding strategy. So this is getting into like cost control. We set a bidding strategy and set that to a 1.5, right? And so essentially when we set a 1.5 bidding strategy or a target ROAS of 1.5, this tells Meta that, hey, do not spend our advertising dollars do not spend our advertising dollars unless there's a high probability that we're gonna hit that 1.5 ROAS, right? And so this is how we build all the campaigns. And so we have the ASC and we set the budget at $300, right? And so some people may look at like $300, like that might be a lot, but no, it's not a lot, because when you're using bid strategies, such as like a target ROAS or a CAC, when you set the target ROAS, Meta does not spend your budget unless it has a high probability of achieving the outcome that you want. If you're achieving the outcome that you want, then you can keep spending the money, you can keep spending the advertising dollar as long as you're hitting the outcome that you want. So this is one of the biggest secrets that these massive brands are doing, that smaller e-commerce brands don't necessarily use. A lot of them use the bidding strategy, lowest, like at highest volume, lowest cost, in which you just kind of giving the reign to Meta to do whatever they want with your advertising dollar. So essentially, if you were to go build a campaign without using a target ROAS or a CAC, you put it $300, that's guaranteed to spend on any given day. $300 is going to be spent, but you're not guaranteed a target ROAS or the ROAS that you're looking for. But with this bidding strategy, when you're using a target ROAS, if we're going to do like a 1.5 here, a 1.5 is what we need to break even. If we're going to do a 1.5, Meta won't spend unless there's a high probability that it's going to get that 1.5 ROAS, right? And that is very important. So then you take this and build that across multiple different categories. But to continue on with the same campaign, so you have the ASC campaign structure. You have a broad ad set. With ASC, you can't pick any interest audience, anything like that. Not with the regular campaign, so you can't do that. So it's going to be broad, and the reason why it's broad is because then it's really utilizing the machine learning to achieve the goals, right? So the more data that essentially like the machine has, the more likely it has to achieve the outcome that you want. So that's the audience. So it's going to be broad, and then we have 3 different essentially ad that we're going to be testing. So you got from a static ad, which is going to be one, and then you also have like carousel, which is going to be another form of ad that we're going to be testing, and then we also have a video. And it's very important to make sure that you're differentiating your creatives, because on Meta, creative is king. If you don't have good creatives, there's a high probability that you're not going to get the outcome that you want, right? Because the creative is what essentially, it's what sells. Right? It's what intrigues people. And if Meta sees that your creatives are not good, they're not going to be pushing much of your ad. And then that's when your CPM goes to the roof. You got low CTR, etc. Right? So creatives is very important. And so when you have creative diversification to where it's not just static images, which is what a lot of brands do, so where you have static images, okay, cool, that's one. And then you have carousel, that's another one. And you have video, and even just a GIF as well, if you can include that. The more variation, the higher likelihood your account is to perform, right? So again, you take this strategy, this tactic over here, and then you're building that across multiple different product categories. If you're in a apparel brand, you're gonna do it for your shorts. You're gonna do it for your pants category. You're gonna do it for the shoes. You're gonna do it for the hats. You're gonna do it for the whatever. The only variable that changes obviously is the creative, and then it's the target ROAS. Whatever that margin is, you have to set it to that, right? And so this is how you ensure that Meta doesn't just spend your dollars without getting the outcome that you want, right? Again, like a lot of brands don't know this. A lot of brands will like run Facebook ads and not get the outcome because they're just spending money like that without getting the return that they want. You have to flip that switch. You have to make the variable that is constant, that is not to change, is the ROAS. But with other brands, it's the opposite. To where the variable that constantly changes is the ROAS, and the one that's like static to where it won't change is the spend. Again, you want to flip that. Hopefully this makes sense, right? And so we talked about the tactic over here, right? Now let's look at the specific formula, right? If you're looking to maybe like optimize the business, right? And so this simply is this traffic. Right? It's the traffic that you're getting from any one of the platform, either from Meta or from Google. So you have traffic, the conversion rate, right, from the account, the conversion rate. You have the AOV, which is the average order value of the product that you're selling, right? If your product is $100 or something like that, that's your average order value, right? And then there's LTV over here. We're gonna get to that in just a moment. And then you have your variable costs, which we talked about over here. So your pick pack fee, your shipping fee, your credit card auto processing fee, you have to include that over here. So this is your variable cost, right? So when you essentially like put out this formula, this equates to profit, right? And so if you're not profitable, then you have to come back over here and then analyze all of these. You have to analyze your traffic. Are you getting the right traffic to the business, right? Are you talking about the right people? How's your conversion rate? How well optimized is your website? Right? Is your website really optimized? Is your ad account really optimized your AOV. Is your AOV too low? How can you increase your AOV, right? And different ways to increase your AOV is by doing like bundles and deals, right? Because when you have bundles, which like with a larger AOV, it helps out with your profit, right? And so obviously again, which just like the variable cost, right? Is this as low as it could be? Can you go with another payment processing or pick pack company to just overall reduce like your variable cost, right? So again, at the end of the day, when you're trying to come to like the profit, when you're trying to get a profit, these are the different variables that you need to be optimized. First thing I need to check, boom, where am I advertising? Meta or Google? Is that whichever one you're advertising on? Is that like is it a platform that's generating high quality traffic? Right? Next, how's my website? Do I have a good conversion rate? How can I optimize my website? Right? And then the next thing is the AOV. How can I increase my AOV how can I increase my AOV? By doing bundles, right? And then as I mentioned, just like your variable costs. And then at the end of the day, once you compute all of those, you have your profit. Now, I have LTV over here because like some brands, some companies, they will, you can optimize for LTV instead of AOV. Right? And the reason why you want to do LTV instead of AOV, because like with LTV, obviously it kind of gives you a longer runway, right? So because like AOV is like, for example, like your AOV is $100, and then you have an LTV is like, $200. You can optimize for LTV, which just kind of allows you to be more aggressive when it comes to marketing, because now you don't have to optimize on AOV alone, which is obviously it's a shorter numerical number, like $100, but you optimize for like your LTV, which is $200, right? So then your CAC doesn't have to, your CAC doesn't have to be as low. You can get away with a higher CAC because you're optimizing for LTV when you're merchandising and when you're building your campaigns, right? And then I also have this over here. This is also looking at platform-specific metrics that you can optimize. Meta, one of the biggest things that you look for is like the CPM. How high is CPM on Meta right now, right? The audience that I'm targeting, is the CPMs like really high? Like how can I change that? How can I optimize, like how can I change the CPM, right? And quite frankly, there's not a whole lot that you can do to change the CPM, apart just changing the audiences that you're targeting, right? But if you're using this specific strategy, you can't really change your audience, right? Because it's all machine learning. Your audience is determined by the creative that you're using, right? And so CPM, because CPM is always going to be going up, it's constantly going to be rising, going through the roof, because essentially the platform, they decide what the CPM is, right? So there's not a whole lot you can do besides changing the audience, but to change audience, you have to use a different strategy for this, which to some degree is like a last step, a last strategy. When ASC doesn't work, then we use the regular manual campaigns on Meta, right? And then you also have like your traffic, right? That's another thing. So when you look at your traffic, and then when you're looking at your CTR, which is like the click-through rate, and then the next thing that you really want to look at is your conversion rate or your purchases, and then ROAS and conversion rate. So these are all the metrics that I look at in a specific platform when I'm optimizing them. So these are like strategies and things that you will learn working with these massive brands like that I just mentioned earlier in this video, right? Just to kind of recap, come to an understanding like what these like higher level business metrics is and what the target for that is. Two of the most important is contribution margin and AMER, right? Contribution margin is your profit. AMER is how it's acquisition marketing efficiency ratio, right? Then you take this and then distribute that across the different platforms that you're advertising on, right? By using cost controls, target ROAS or customer acquisition costs. And so when you put all of this together, you ultimately have a business that is just fueling money, just fueling just profit. When you're optimizing it in this specific way, when you look at these metrics, when you're building out your accounts in this specific aspect, right? And then when you're looking to optimize, which one of these things can you optimize to further increase either your profit or any other thing that you're optimizing for? Guys, I hope this is making sense, right? If you have any questions, go to any of these things that we just talked about, just leave them down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer, and stay tuned for the next video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.